I'm just interested to know from you and your perspective, like, what's really been of value? Like, if you had to take away, like, maybe even one concept, process, or tool, what would that be? Or, maybe the value to you is in the community. Like, so basically the question is, what are you getting out of all this?
That's a lot. I would split it 50-50. Can I do that?
Sure.
I'd say 50% of my top takeaway is the community.
Mm-hmm.
It's been extremely beneficial, not just for myself, but I think also for CREATE, to have the insights that we've gained from the various centers, what their projects are, what they're doing well, where their challenges are. Because of course a lot of that, even though we're doing different projects, a lot of that replicates. There's a lot of crossover that you can really learn from. So that's huge. I mean, even just this morning, talking with Cecilia, I don't know if that's how they say
Cecilia,
it.
yeah.
No, not Cecilia.
Oh,
Cecilia, CCSIA.
Yes, okay. Cecilia.
Found like overlap of what they're doing and just learned like in a 30-minute exchange a bunch of stuff that'll end up helping us. So that is big. But the other 50% I think would be going through the process of the logic model, progressing through, creating, looking at our innovation and really kind of pulling back all of the extraneous things that get crowded around it. Because oftentimes in our day-to-day, that gets lost. You get so full of your to-do list and okay, now we have another workshop coming and who are going to be the facilitators and we've got, this meeting coming and, that really sometimes crowds out the essence of what it is that you're actually doing.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, one of the largest takeaways is the fact that we went from thinking that we were going to scale up our project as in this shape, and we actually, by San Francisco, by the second meeting, we were able to hone that down and recognize that actually portion of what we were trying to scale up was actually an earlier effort to scale.
Mm-hmm.
And that really wasn't an effective thing to try and scale, which sounds small, but was actually really very large for us because it gave us an entire, kind of reframed the entire essence of what we were doing and what we were doing here. Mm-hmm. So those would be, I would take both of those. I would say equal.
Talk about your project a little, what it is that you scaled. The specifics are so interesting. I get to hear about it interacting at Synergy, and I think for me, the value of the community is really understanding the innovations, how they've evolved, what were the common pitfalls, but the successes too. But I've gotten to know sort of the culture of each community college, where those innovations live, and what's unique about them, and of course, what you can all share and build in knowledge and learning from each other in the learning communities is fabulous. But I love hearing about the story of these innovations. I think it's such a learning opportunity within our community, and I'd love for you to talk a little bit about specifically what you guys are up to.
Yes, the project that we chose to scale is, originally was what we call the TSW FGW, and the TSW stands for Teaching Skills Workshops. And that is it's an intensive, concentrated, peer-to-peer facilitated workshop for providing instructors with skills that they may not have for teaching. A lot of our work is done with technical educators that are strictly they're not really technical educators yet. Our goal is to take them from being technologists and moving them into the realm of technical educator. I suppose if ultimately at some point our future would be if we could move them actually into a category of just educator, would be our highest, best, goal. But moving folks from a place where they are very, very skilled and they have deep expertise in a particular technology, and then they come into the community college and oftentimes don't have a clue as how to shape a course session, how to write an objective, how to write a learning objective, a really effective learning objective, how to give feedback, effective feedback to their students. These are skills that are really, fundamental and sometimes seem almost simplistic, but if you haven't done them and you haven't been schooled in how to do those things, teaching is an uphill struggle. It's very difficult. Some people are more effective than others at picking these things up on their own. Mm-hmm. So the TSW takes faculty or takes instructors or wannabe instructors, future instructors, and has them work. They do micro-teaching, so they teach to each other. They do small mini lessons, we call them, and then they provide both written and oral feedback to each other. And they are coached on how to give feedback, so the feedback is very structured. And then they also are videotaped while they're giving a mini lesson. So they have 3 different forms of feedback on their teaching. So they get.
Sounds rigorous.
It is rigorous, and
Yeah.
it's intensive. It's
Yeah.
truly intensive. But the results that we get from that in terms of satisfaction of the participants is huge. We just finished one 2 weeks ago. And the result, we just got the survey results. We survey them at the end of every session, the end of every day. The results are outstanding. I mean, it's appreciated, it's, very, and the comments are not, they're not just enthusiastic, they're multi-exclamation point kind of responses. So the faculty really enjoy it. The instructors really benefit from that. The other thing that we've done with those is surveyed students before and after. And the use of the TSWs, the College of the Canyons has used it for many years. They actually have it built into an adjunct program there. And faculty that complete the TSW, plus 2 other smaller workshops that accompany that, actually move to a different pay scale. They actually are in a different pay structure than the adjuncts who have not. So College of the Canyons has really institutionalized it fully. So in an effort to scale that up, they developed the FDWs. And the FDW is the Facilitator Development Workshop. And in that case, it's a little bit longer, and the participants go through a full TSW, and then they come back and they do 2 days of being the facilitator, being the person who coordinates the the oral feedback, who manages the sessions during the mini lessons, etc. Effective, yes, but not necessarily really working in terms of scale. And that wasn't an early effort at scale. Now, there's an early effort at scale that none of the tools that we now have through the synergy process were at our disposal.
Right.
It was a train the trainer model, tried
Yep.
and true, a very common way to try and scale something up.
Professional development
Exactly,
specifically, yeah.
exactly, yes. And it didn't really take root. I was one of the first people who came through when they opened this out to the ATE centers. And I came through as a participant, was trained as a facilitator, went back to my college and experienced what I think we've all recognized as the real downfall of this, is you drop back into your institution and then what?
Yeah.
You go to your administration, you say, I've got this great professional development opportunity, but you're not really, you're swimming upstream. Unless you can immediately dovetail into some effort of your institution, you're a sole voice singing in the wilderness, so to speak.
Yeah, where's
So,
the support?
Yeah, so we did, I ended up successfully running a couple of them at my college. Faculty were, again, multi-exclamation point praise and loved it and wish I had this when I started teaching. It was very positive.
Yeah, valuable.
But how can I sustain that? At that time, I was a full-time faculty member, I was a program chair. I'm not, on top of my regular duties, I'm going to do this. It's just it wasn't built in a way that would really sustain over time for the adopter. So, coming into this process, we were looking at the TSW and the FDW together and trying to figure out how we could scale that package. And that's when we realized, the FDW was a premature version of scale, and we need to drop it. We need to look at the TSWs and talk about now, how do we scale it up? Mm-hmm. Instead of just a flat-out train-the-trainer model, what can we do? So, and one of the things that we're working with now is an adopter actually brought up a variation on how we do this. And we went to Westmoreland Community College, Westmoreland College, I'm not sure, 2-year college out of Pittsburgh. They approached us at the PI conference after a presentation that Kathy Alfano, the PI, and I did, and said, we can't bring our people to California, but would you come to us? So we did. And of course, we're seeing a much deeper, it got rooted into the institution. The institution brought us there. So that's definitely our next chapter, is to really go ahead, and we have a lot of data that we can collect from Westmoreland. We're pulling that data together to see that we can actually quantify that this was, of course, a much more effective way of spreading the innovation. So that's a path we'll go. The other thing that we looked at was connecting our completers so that we could support them beyond the face-to-face environment. So we're starting actually just this next month, first part of next month, we're starting a workshop that we're doing with them to continue to build their skills and practice the skills that they gained. We're using the Getting Results materials that WGBH and the League of Innovation.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah,
they're really good.
They're awesome. So we're using those as our basis. They'll be going through those, and then they'll be doing a shared facilitated discussion online about those things, and writing short little, not really essays, but short little reflective pieces on that they'll be sharing. So we're looking also to, so we're kind of two-tier. We're trying to build a more of a community So the community practice work that we've done in Synergy has really benefited, our project has benefited from that.
Oh, that's good to
Because
hear.
building that community of practice around that so that we can take those completers, the 16 people who we just trained two weeks ago want to stay connected.
Yeah.
They're all bought in. They're ready. They're waiting for it to start.
It's like
Because they
you-
want to, talk to each other again.
Yeah.
They've just gone through this intensive experience together. They all are starting out.
Mhm.
They all have common questions about educating and being an instructor, and there we go. They can stay together. So it's kind of a two-prong
Yeah.
try to
And you were an innovation coach in that
Yes.
community.
Yes.
As we all started, sort of face-to-face and then online,
Yeah.
continued it. And I wondered, has that participating at that level and in that community that was helping to facilitate conversations in scaling of innovation, do you still keep in touch with some of the other coaches? Do you have that bond? Is
Oh,
it continuing?
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's really good to hear.
the social media SIG, as we call them, the social media
Yeah.
special interest group, we're all getting together for dinner tonight, actually. I mean,
Oh, that's great.
We're very, we stay in very close contact.
Yeah.
And the things that we learned by working with social media and thinking about how to use social media to leverage that community practice has been, it's been incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
Really, really helpful. I think for all of us that were involved, and I think even for Synergy as a whole, I think we were able to provide a little bit of, if not leadership, at least some awareness
Mhm.
of the
Yeah.
things that are out there.
Yeah, it was really interesting because you guys formed that group based on your own interests.
Yeah.
It wasn't something Synergy said, oh, we need a social media group.
Yeah.
It was you guys saying, we all have an interest in this. It would be useful to have some information and maybe some tools and models for how to leverage social media to understand your influence networks, communities of, practice, all sorts of different
Yeah.
things that you saw the need. And then you guys just took it on yourselves. And I think those are the strongest community ties, when there's that common problem and interest that unifies people, and coming around it in a way that's not enforced by the outside, but is like, hey, we care about this, so we're getting together.
I think you really, I think you've hit the nail on the head. When I was coming here this time, I was thinking on my way here, what would I didn't realize we were going to be doing these interviews, but I thought, what would I say? What would be my one thing that I would say in terms of suggestions or comments? And I think that you've just alluded to what I would say, and that's this locus of control issue. And I think that the social media SIG was really successful for that very reason. The locus of control was squarely with us. Although we were asked to, participate at a certain, level, and there was some expectations around it somewhat, but they were
sure.
loose.
They
They were very loose.
Yeah.
And I think that really helped us to explore and grow that SIG the way that it needed to for the group.
Yeah. And it's
yeah.
sustained because of that, I think.
Yeah, and I would love if we, go forward, it would be great to be able to incorporate some of the things that we found from that SIG more into the main group, because I think people would really find a lot that we've done really interesting.
I
really,
think so too.
Yeah.
I think we need to capture that experience and the evidence of how and why it worked. What was your process?
Yeah.
And what did you get out of it?
Yeah.
What knowledge was diffused? What information resources were shared? How did you interact? How often? With what tools?
Yeah.
All of that would be really interesting to capture in some more depth.
Yeah.
Going forward.
Yeah, and we've talked about maybe doing some presentations or something based on the actual use of the tools as well, because none of us were particularly versed in any of it.
No.
I mean, we made it up as we went. It was more, gee, we need to know about this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's investigate it, which is
Yeah.
great. It was shared
is.
inquiry. It was the classic
is.
shared inquiry.
Yeah.
And an environment perfectly with Synergy, gave us that space and that room for us to explore a point of shared inquiry.